back to the Promotion on a Budget podcast. We're back again over Zoom, me and Josh. And today's, we're got another exciting podcast for you. Josh, how are you today?
I'm all right, mate. How are you?
You know what? I am buzzing again. Norwich 3-2-1 draws on the bounce. 2-1 draws, 2-1 wins, sorry.
Draws? How can you draw 2-1? No, a lot of interesting games over the course of this these 2 game weeks that we're going to be covering again. Lots of goals to bring to you, and we're going to try and dash through this as quickly but as in-depth as possible because no one likes us dallying around. So how about you get straight into it, Doeke?
Yeah, so the first game that we can talk about from midweek is Preston. And obviously, big game there. Preston... hang on, just going to get a result up.
It was 3-0, Doeke.
3-0, that's the one. That's the one, sorry. I'm not really with it today, not really with it. I was looking at the result of the weekend. Sorry. But yeah, no, it was 3-0. Big scoreline for Preston. I mean, it's
a very good bounce back after drawing to Wickham. Obviously they beat Bournemouth. Then we kind of said so they've done that and they've had a banana skin as we've kind of touched. We touched on Preston a decent little bit last week, and they really did bounce back into this one, didn't they? They come in with a 3-0 win. All goals coming in the second half. 2 of them actually come within 2 minutes of each other. It was kind of seemed like it could have swung the other way to Middlesbrough, but then those 2 goals coming very late on saw it out, really, didn't it?
Yeah, sorry, I was looking at the 3-0 loss to Luton. I was a bit confused while I was pressing. But no, yeah, they won 3-0 against Middlesbrough. A Middlesbrough side who don't like to concede a lot of goals. Obviously, we know Neil Warnock is a very defensive type of manager. But for Preston, obviously, huge win for them. Sinclair getting on the score sheet again, proving to be a very, very good player for them, a very key player for them this season. And 2 goals in the final 10 minutes, in quick succession as well. Really highlighting the fact that, the last 10 minutes of Championship football in games is a very, very important time. A lot of goals are seeming to be scored in that time, and it is really proving to be, an important time to get goals and can win you games. And we've seen this many, many times before. But looking at the stats from this game, it was a very, very strange one. Very strange one. I mean, I think we expected...
Very clinical display from Preston, I think it's fair to say.
I mean, very even possession, very even shots. Preston did have more shots on target, however. But we expected a bit more of a defensive performance from Middlesbrough. Not a lot of shots conceded. They conceded 11 shots with 6 on target. Preston very, very clinical, scoring half of those shots on target. And Middlesbrough just really didn't seem to be a threat in this game. So yeah, all credit to Preston, but Middlesbrough really poor from them.
Yeah, I mean, on the whole, for this Middlesbrough team who have conceded 14 goals all season, it's quite weird to see them concede 3 in one game week. Now, it's a really interesting one because, like I was saying, Preston were very clinical in this game, and all things considered, yes, Preston did probably have more chances and the better of the chances, but it's not really... The result really didn't kind of justify how the game went. Middlesbrough did dominate for large periods of the game. It seemed to be a fairly dull first half. Not a lot really kind of happened. And this is potentially where the argument with the substitutions comes in. Now, I'm just looking here at the times that Preston made their 4 subs that they made in the game. So they only chose to make 4 out of the 5. They made 2 in the 74th minute, 1 in the 75th minute. So that might just be the way that my apps reported it. They could have actually been a triple sub. And then 1 in the 79th minute. Now, if we look at who came on, one of the substitutions that came on actually scored the 3rd. Now, could that injection of fresh legs have propelled them to actually be able to win the game? I don't know. It's a really interesting one, and like we've said so many times, substitutions can swing games. I don't think the 3-0 was necessarily justifiable or fair on Middlesbrough, but nonetheless, Preston will be very happy with bouncing back after that banana skin that they had against Wickham midweek, especially after such a great victory at Bournemouth.
Yeah, 100%. Anyway, Josh, should we take on to the next game from the midweek?
Yeah, so the next game that we've got here is Reading's game against Reading hosting Birmingham City, wrong. I'm reading the wrong things. We're both having a mare today. If you couldn't tell, we've had a hard weekend, busy
We have.
weekend. But a first half brace from John Torrell saw the host take a resounding 2-0 lead into half time. Much the better team. There's no argument about that at all. I mean, this was the game that I went to. Quite frankly, they looked 10 times better. They looked faster. They looked sharper. They were pressing high. They wanted it more, quite frankly. There were some potentially dodgy decisions in this game. I know this is both ways as well. This is not a one-sided argument that I'm going to give out here. The penalty that Lucas João actually missed in the second half, it was debatable whether it was actually a foul on Yaku Mate. That also did result in Harley Dean receiving a second yellow card in quick succession. And ultimately, I think the way that the game went was kind of the heads had dropped after Reading went 2-0 down. Birmingham looked way on top, way in control. They went down to 10 men. They needed to sit back. They'd obviously conceded a goal in the 61st minute from Yaku Mate. But quite frankly, Birmingham did what they needed to do. They time wasted as much of the game away as possible. And unfortunately, the bad thing that's come out of that game for Reading is not just have they dropped 3 points that has kind of knocked them off the trail of the teams above them, they've actually suffered a heck of a lot of injuries coming out of that game. And that comes into looking at squad depth. I mean, Reading ended the game with 10 players on the pitch,
100%.
unfortunately. But there was a lot to take from that game being there. Obviously, I didn't enjoy it as much as I could have, but that's my bias for you.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at a stat here, and obviously Reading dominated possession, dominated shots, but shots on target is a big one that stands out for me. Birmingham, very clinical. They had 3 shots on target in the whole game, scored 2 of them. Reading only had 2 shots on target.
And one of them was the missed penalty.
Exactly, and one of them would have been the goal. Out of 11 shots, that is really, really poor. I think Reading in this game just weren't up to scratch in front of goal, and I think that really just speaks volume in this league. You have to be clinical.
The one stat I would like to just point out in this game, Birmingham City committed a total of 25 fouls.
I don't know if that's down to poor refereeing.
Yeah, no. I actually think more yellow cards should have been dished out than what were. I would very much say that Michael Keefton-Belt was very lucky to not find himself in the book at least 3 times. Some very suspect refereeing. But like I said, on both parts, I personally felt Neil Etheridge should have been booked for time wasting in the first half, not in the 80th minute. But I think there are other ways round, decisions that the other way round you'd look at and go, realistically, Birmingham might feel that they should have had a couple of extra things go their way. But like I said, I think, quite frankly, Reading were a lot poorer than what we've seen them of late, and obviously of how they started at the start of the season. Almost a Reading that we've seen at kind of various points at the kind of we've seen kind of glimpses of it and how poor they can be, which is a real shame, and it obviously pains me to say. But quite frankly, this is the Birmingham side that we've seen glimpses of last year. But my favourite thing out of this game is I love how a little tin pot club that everyone thinks is in London can live rent-free in a teenager's head playing for Borussia Dortmund. I'll leave that one there.
All right, just out in Jude Bellingham there. Anyway, Josh, shall we move on to the next game we've chosen to talk about in midweek?
Yeah, so the next game we've highlighted for midweek is Bristol City beating Blackburn by 1-0. Now, this was a game that I think, looking, again, statistically speaking, Blackburn should have won the game. It was a 82nd minute winner from Deardoo for Bristol City, and Blackburn dominated the game. They had more shots, and ultimately they had more chances. A lot of their shots, looking now, were kind of outside of the box shots, and now that might come into it a little bit more. The Bristol City goalkeeper, like I've highlighted before, Daniel Bentley, he is solid, and I think I believe he actually got man of the match for this game. He was sublime. Some of the saves he pulled off in this game kept him in it, quite frankly.
I would just like to add, sorry, Bristol City performed what would have been, if they were away from home, a brilliant shithouse away win. But they were at home and they didn't look like. Yes, they won, but Blackburn played like the home side, dominating the game, dominating the shots. But Bristol City carrying out a game plan and picking up that win. I would also like to add Beckles' boy Chrissy Martin with the assist.
Of course, you find any way to plug your little hometown, don't you?
I
But
do.
it's that Bristol City inconsistency that we've spoken about before, and we unfortunately have to keep talking about because they seem to go from win to loss to win. They can't maintain a string of results, which they haven't done in a good few game weeks now. But it's an interesting result because realistically, you look at the game and you go, right, Blackburn high scoring, Bristol City tend to concede, but they also don't often score. So it kind of did scream that Blackburn could have pummeled a few goals in and Bristol City got one or two. It's a very interesting outcome to the game, not one that I really expected. And obviously, the interesting one to note as well is Bristol didn't have fans in. So that might be why Blackburn were able to get a bit more of a scruff on the game. Who knows? We won't know. But it is another 3 points picked up for Bristol City, keeping them in and amongst the teams at the top.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing a lot of Bristol City, like you said, with the inconsistency. They are losing games, but they have proven and go on a run and get a few wins and actually put themselves and keep themselves in the playoffs. And I think if they can get those small little blips out of their game and make sure they can turn them into at least draws, we'll be looking at seeing them in the playoffs come nearer to the end of the season.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think they can if they can iron out the little mistakes, then I don't see why they can't kick on. But I think enough talking about a 1-0 win, because let's be realistic, it probably wasn't the most resounding of games. But to look at the next game, and I want you to take this one, Duka, between two of the most informed sides in the league at the time. What a game this was.
Yeah, so obviously Stoke won, Cardiff 2. Very, very big game this on a whole, purely because Cardiff, this was their fourth win on the trot. They've conceded, this is only one goal conceded in their past 4 games, and it was an own goal by Morrison. We saw Stoke take the lead in the first half through that own goal. And Stoke were at home here. Obviously, at the Britannia, they are very, very solid. I believe, I want to say Norwich are one of the only teams to have beaten them there this season, bar Cardiff, one of the only teams. I believe there's one or two others as well. But yeah, they take the lead. Going into half time, you're expecting Cardiff to come out and put out a performance, which they definitely did. Joe Rules being the key man in that, grabbing 2 assists in this game. Glatzel and Morrison getting the goals. So Morrison scoring a brace in this game, yet one was in the wrong net. But big win for Cardiff. And we look at the stats here, very even game. Stoke only having 1 shot on target. Obviously, the goal wasn't even that shot on target because it was an own goal.
The goal was actually the missed penalty, wasn't it, from Sam Vokes that realistically could have put the game in Stoke's hands. The save of the penalty obviously being saved, he managed to get himself onto penalty duties 4 minutes after coming onto the pitch. Now, I think that's the interesting turning point for me in this game. They had a chance to go 2-0 up, and ultimately they've ended up losing the game. Now, Tyrese Campbell had to go off injured in this game. Someone who we've spoken about and praised a lot in the past. But this game was literally a tale of 2 halves, a tale of not many chances, but teams failing to take the chances that came to them most, obviously being Stoke's penalty, and Cardiff with that only 2 shots on target, scoring 2 goals.
Yeah, 100%. I think we're looking at this game, and it is 2 clinical teams. When you put the ball in front of them, in around the area of the goal with the 18-yard box, 6-yard box, they will either score or get it on target at least. And we've seen this with Cardiff, especially in that second half. The 2 shots on target they had both turned into goals. And I think if you want to progress in this league, get to the Premier League or finish in the playoffs, you have got to have that clinicality. Unfortunately, we saw with Stoke, they may not have had it today, but on another day they will have it, and we have seen this in the past with them. But on a Cardiff perspective, they'll be absolutely over the moon with this performance. Away from home at such a difficult place to get a 2-1 win, to get that comeback as well, and be very clinical. I think that's what everything that the manager would have wanted before the game. However, because they didn't for me, because they had 2 shots on target, after scoring so many goals, yes, they've been clinical, but is this a bit of a downfall for them? Only having 2 shots on target for a side that scored God knows how many goals. I think it's 8 goals in 3 games or whatnot. Previously to this, so it's maybe a slight sign of a blip, but we'll see what happens with the weekend games, which
I
we'll
mean,
now go into.
ironically, you're talking about Cardiff and not being clinical. It's actually the first weekend game that I'm going to touch on here. The South Wales derby, the early kick-off on the Saturday, and Joe Rawls has gone from hero to zero, quite frankly. Gone from getting a brace of assists to getting a brace of yellow cards and getting himself sent off in this one. Uh, Talking of braces, a Jamal Lowe brace in this one saw Swansea over the line in a game where, quite frankly, they dominated possession, they had more shots, they had more chances, and they ultimately took the 3 points away from Cardiff, ending that winning run that we've seen that had them as the form team in the Championship, the ones to be feared, the ones who were scoring goals for fun. Now, Swansea, this really impresses me still. They've conceded 10 goals all season. They're nearly averaging conceding a goal every 2 games, 1 goal per 2 games, which I think is brilliant, quite
Yeah,
frankly.
100%. Swansea been really impressive defensively, but going into this game, I think we expected it to be a little bit more tighter than what it would be. I would have expected Cardiff to really, really trouble that Swansea defence. The amount of goals they have scored in previous games. But Swansea, all credit to them, are brilliant. And I think they are, going forward, a real threat. As we see, Jamal Lowe is a great, great player at this level. They've got Andre Ayew. So many good players going forward, but defensively as
Wayne
well.
Routledge, even.
Yeah, exactly. And defensively, they're looking so, so solid as well. Jake Bidwell, again, another standout player for him. I know Lewis, who does the socials for POAB, absolutely loves them as well. Swansea really, really are looking like a very, very good side. And for me, I think they're going to... See, it's really, really tight at the top of the table, but I really do think they'll finish in playoffs, if not automatics this season.
I completely agree. I think Swansea proved how good they are last season, and they're doing it again this season. They've managed to hold on to their talent, and like I said, they're not necessarily scoring a bundle of goals. They are still over the 20 mark for goals. They're not scoring as many as some of the teams around them, but ultimately they're not conceding. And if you don't concede, you're guaranteeing yourself at least 1 point, because a 0-0 draw, they would rather take over a 1-0 loss. And ultimately, I think Swansea are the kind of team that have it in them to kick on and really challenge at the top of the league. But speaking of teams that challenge at the top of the league, what a resounding win for Bournemouth. 5-0 at home to Huddersfield. Ironically, Huddersfield had more possession, but possession doesn't win you football matches. Ultimately, it's goals that do, and a Dominic Solanke brace plus an assist going into half-time gave them the 3-0 lead, with after David Brooks scoring off the Dominic Solanke assist, Junior Stanislas and Sam Surridge adding to that in quick succession in the second half. Now, that is the Bournemouth side that we know. That's the Bournemouth side that we've seen play. They know how to play. They've had a couple of slip-ups.
Sorry, Josh. I would like to add, this is the Bournemouth side that will get promoted this season. 100%.
I completely agree. If they play like this week in, week out, they will either win the league or go up automatically. It depends how the teams around them play, but they are good enough to go up automatically, in my opinion. They just obviously need to avoid these banana skins that they've had. Obviously, we've spoken about the Rotherham banana skin, the Preston game where they slipped up. They dropped points to Swansea. Talking about Swansea not conceding goals, they drew that one 0-0. Bournemouth have kept themselves in second place with the result of this one. And Huddersfield, while they might be 14th, it's very, very tight in the middle of the table. Very tight indeed. Especially, going from about 9th to, I think it's 16th you're looking at a matter of 4 or 5 points separating teams. That's a win and a draw's difference between everyone. It's not a lot at all.
Yeah, I mean, what you're saying, Josh, yeah, 100%. But you look at every single part of the table at the minute. It's so tight. We look at
so close.
I think one of the only places that I can think that is 3 points clear of the rest of the pack, so to speak, is Norwich. And I mean, I know it's biased, but they're 3 points clear of Bournemouth.
Yeah, you can't ignore it. But if you are talking about being 3 points clear, Sheffield Wednesday are obviously still drifting away at the bottom of the league. And there are beginning some gaps are kind of beginning to form down the bottom of the league as well, which obviously we'll come on to shortly. But the one thing I just want to touch on with Huddersfield is it's quite a shame to see them lose so heavily after they've managed to they soar out 2-0 wins back to back. Obviously they've conceded none in either of those games, and then they've gone and had 5 smashed past them. So unfortunately for them, it's not the way it's gone.
But would you? I think as much as Huddersfield, it's poor from them to concede 5 goals. Are we not just seeing a Bournemouth side who are absolutely lethal, both ends of the pitch, defensively disciplined, going forward clinical, and they're just an absolute force in this division, and really are proving that at the minute. 5-0, man, against a Huddersfield side who are no mugs at the end of the day. Dominic Solanke, key player in this. 2 goals and an assist, and I believe I said this at the start of the season. I believe he is built for the Championship this season. He will get goals, especially that midfield that's backing him up. You look at Danjuna Grunewald, Junior Stanislas, Brooks as well, just feeding him balls. He's going to thrive off that, and he really is at the minute.
Yeah, he's a very, very good player, and I mean, like you said, in any game to score 5 goals is impressive. But talking of goals, how about we move on to the next game where we talk about one player in particular who grabbed himself 3 of the best, as they would say.
I mean, James Collins, not the James Collins, the Ginger Pelé, but another James Collins, the Luton striker, who grabs himself a hat-trick in this game against Preston. Preston, who
against Preston. No. Oh, it was against Preston.
It was against Preston.
What am I talking about?
Because it was me. I was speaking about it at the start of the video. That's what I was confused about. However,
right. I hope you're aware. You have completely thrown me off now. I hope you're really proud of yourself. You like rattling me, don't you? You absolutely love it. We'll get on to you rattling me again in a minute. I'll let you carry on, and I'll sit here, be quiet, and behave myself.
Anyway, yeah. So Luton beat Preston 3-0. Obviously, we're singing Preston's praises. Shortly, not a short while ago, where after they beat Middlesbrough 3-0. They've gone into the weekend getting absolutely pummeled by Luton. I think we've said this in so many podcasts now, where we've said Preston are so inconsistent this season, and if this doesn't epitomise it, I don't know what does. But all credit to Luton. James Collins, he's been with the club since I believe they were in League Two, and just scoring goals season after season for him. And he just is a class English Football League striker, going up the divisions and still scoring goals. Getting a hat-trick here. I believe he also got a hat-trick in the first EFL Cup, the Carabao Cup game against Norwich as well. He's got a hat-trick then when they beat Norwich 3-1. So he's obviously a very, very good striker at this level. And just looking at the stats as well, Luton dominated. 19 shots in this game to Preston's 4. Preston had the majority of possession, not too much, 54%.
Possession don't win you football matches, does it?
It doesn't. But Luton are, fair play to Luton. Absolutely bossed it in this game. And I think Nathan Jones will be fully pleased with all his players.
Yeah, completely agree with you there, mate. And ironically, you're talking about teams that are inconsistent. You're talking about teams that are bouncing either up or down from previous results. Let's take a look at the next one, because quite frankly, this epitomises everything you've just said, but for a different team under a different manager.
100%. And then we'll go on to Middlesbrough, who lost 3-0 to Preston in midweek and have now gone and beaten Millwall 3-0. Millwall have been on a bit of a poor run of form, losing to Derby previous weekend and then drawing to QPR midweek. But the game,
ironically, they're without a win since they beat Preston.
And there we go. Preston is everywhere. Anyway, the big talking point in this game was the game was ended pretty much within 20 minutes. Duncan Watmore, the ex-Sunderland youth product, getting a brace for Middlesbrough, and Tavernier also getting a goal. All goals were scored before the 20th minute. And for me, that killed the game off. Millwall, very, very slow start from them. Although, again, they had a majority possession, Middlesbrough dominated the game. Shots-wise, they had 16 shots to Millwall's 4. Millwall they weren't there. They didn't show up at all. And Middlesbrough just had an easy run in from the off. And as soon as it turned 3-0, it was just see the game out. Neil Warnock will be buzzing by his side's response after that 3-0 defeat midweek to Preston. Just a really, really solid win for Middlesbrough, who want to see themselves climb up this table. They are now 9th. They are only 4 points off the playoffs, where they will like to be, but they need to find that consistent vein of results, which they did have, not too long ago. They did have a really consistent vein of results, but they need to find that again, so they can stop. Every blip they have will cost them points, will cost them places in the league. So if they can cut those blips out again, like what we said with Bristol City, if they can cut those blips out, they will look a bit more of a force and will challenge for the playoffs, 100%. But overall, Middlesbrough will be absolutely buzzing with that win.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I'm going to pick up from this game, it's ironic really, because we talk about, we've spoken about Middlesbrough a lot for this one, now they've reacted. The one that I'm unsure of the reason, because it's not flagged as an injury on mine. On the app that I use to get all of my statistics and everything together. Club captain Alex Pearce was substituted after 25 minutes for Millwall and replaced by striker John Daly-Wavarsson. So whether that was a reaction to going 3-0 down with those 3 goals in 7 minutes, just by hauling off one of the 3 centre-backs that they started with and chucking on a striker who might bully some defenders in kind of a hope to try and salvage the game. I don't know. It could have been a case of a tactical decision. It might have been an injury that we're not aware of. I mean, ironically, both players used to play for Reading, because Millwall like to turn into Reading Reject FC. But enough of me trying to take digs at other teams, because it will come back to bite me, as we probably will lose the next time we play against Millwall, and Alex Pearce will probably score a hat-trick. But ultimately, they tried to make that change, and they still only had 4 shots. They chucked another striker on. They brought Matt Smith on with half an hour to go, who's another very good big striker who's good at throwing himself around. But it just made no difference for them. Middlesbrough, like you said, did what they needed to do, saw the game out. And I think that's pretty much all I've got that I can say on that game. I just thought that was really interesting to see, because I thought it was an injury initially, but it might have been what was an attempt at an attempted tactical stroke of genius, if that made sense. But you know what I mean. Either way, let's move on to the game that you told me that you wanted to talk about the most. But we'll hang off talking completely about Norwich until, as a whole, until after we've touched on this game. Doeke, you're 3 points clear at the top of the league. You've beaten a Blackburn team who score for fun, and they only scored 1 goal against you.
Which was, may I add, a sublime goal by Harvey Elliott. Just walked round the fence, nutmeg Grant Hanley, and stuck it under Michael McGovern. But let's not take anything away from Norwich in this game. Just a very, very professional away performance.
Ultimately, don't take anything away from Teemu Pukki.
Yeah,
your favourite Finnish striker.
Who's not finished yet, mate. He's only, I believe he's only 29 or 30 years old.
Anyway.
Don't
quit the day job.
I won't. But anyway, we'd just like to add on Teemu Pukki. He was a free transfer 2 seasons ago. He's made 100 appearances for Norwich now, and he scored 50 goals. So he's scoring 1 goal every 2 games for Norwich on an average. He was a free transfer. He cost us nothing, and
apart from wages and bonuses.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. And I think for
imagine if you're paying him like 300 grand for every goal he scores, he'll actually be costing you a fortune.
Luckily, well, I don't think we are. But
you'd be broke.
Yeah, we would. I mean, we're broke already, as we've got Delia Smith as our owner. But saying that, Teemu Pukki is probably the best striker in this division, and I'm saying this hands down just because he his movement off the ball is second to none. His ability just to have an eye for goal and just finish is incredible. And he just is such a good striker. And whenever he's out injured, we do miss him, as we saw when we drew 1-1 to Coventry and lost 3-1 to Luton. Those 2 games were the only 2 games he had missed since we started this massive run of ours at Rotherham away, I believe it was. And he's just so pinnacle to everything that we do. And yeah, no, a really, really good striker. And a big win for Norwich as well. Blackburn away is never an easy place to go to there. They can score for fun. They've got very, very good players going forward. And yeah, I go into the game confident because we won our past 2 games. But I'm also going into the game like, okay, hang on. This is a Blackburn side. They do score for fun. And we have a very, very leaky defence. The defensive performance was really good. Michael McGovern pulling off one of the saves of the season, I believe. I don't know if you've seen it, Josh, but such a good save.
I unfortunately haven't, mate. No, I was too busy watching Blackburn fans trying to tell me that Harvey Elliott is better than Michael. Well, not me. Tell Twitter that Harvey Elliott is better than Michael Elise.
Oh, mate, I've got Blackburn fans trying to tell me that bloody Harvey Elliott is better than Todd Cantwell, and I'm laughing. I'm just laughing. Todd Cantwell is a baller.
Quite frankly, beating Blackburn away is it's a nice thing, and a lot of big teams do it, don't they, Doeke?
Yeah, they do. But yeah, no, impressive performance from Norwich. Who
and like we said, it was your 11th win of the season, the most wins out of any team in the league. It's kicked you to 3 points clear at the top of the league, as you want to be, especially going into your next game. Now, your next game, I've obviously spoken down to you very much and kind of praised how much you're going to love the outcome of it and how much pain it's going to cause me. But ultimately, the next game we're going to talk about is the clash between our 2 sides. Reading host Norwich at 8 o'clock on Wednesday evening. I'm going to see your team play before you are, and I'm going to see your team absolutely annihilate us unless I am mistaken. Unless, you know what, there are a couple of things that I'd love to see happen for this game, and I'll go on to those shortly. But to start that preview, let's just have a look at Norwich's next few games, because we were speaking about this earlier, and this is one thing that we wanted to go into. You have not got an easy run in your next 3 games. I don't think there's one game that you can stroll into saying, we're going to walk in here, we're going to pick up all 3 points without leaving Gear 1, we're going to go back home to Norwich and stick our feet up and get ready for the next one.
I would just like to add, Josh, sorry, I just want to add, before you go on to these next 3 games, we've seen this before. I've said this before. We had Swansea at home, Middlesbrough away, Stoke away, all in a row, won them all. Those are 3 different games, 3 very, very difficult games. So difficult runs maybe do kind of play into Norwich's hands. But at the same time, go ahead, tell us who Norwich have got up in the next few games.
Well, we've both looked at this one and gone, right, okay, your next 3 games, Reading away, Cardiff at home, Watford away. Now, Watford are very similar to Swansea. They don't concede goals. I think that's going to be your hardest test for you out of the lot. That's your Boxing Day game. That's going to be your hardest test. Your home form tends to be a little bit here and there. Your away form is the best in the league. You have won 6 of your 9 games away from home, only losing 2 on the road. Your home form, however, does have you dropping a few more points.
Now, you say that, but we've only lost 1 home game all season.
You have only lost 1 home game all season, but you have drawn 3.
And won how many?
And if you look, 1-5. So 1-5, drawn 3, lost 1. But the reason I say that, I look at Watford's home form of winning 7, drawing 1, losing 1, only conceding 8 goals at home and scoring 18 goals at home. Now, if you look at that, Watford have then, to go off of that, they've only scored 4 goals away from home. So unfortunately for you, the game is at Vicarage Road. The game will have fans in, and that's going to be a tough test for you. We'll come on to that one when we talk about it, because I guarantee you that's going to be one we will go into. But this now is the battle between us two. This is the battle between two injury-stricken teams at the top of the league. Ironically, your injuries are coming back. Ours have just started.
Yeah. Before our game against Nottingham Forest, we had 14 first-team injuries. And we're still top of the league, clear of 3 points. We now have players coming back. Todd Cantwell has featured in our previous 2 games against Nottingham Forest and Blackburn, and really actually providing some brilliance in both of them, which is really impressive to see. Jordan Hugill now coming back. Tim Krul is expected to be back for either Reading or Cardiff.
Hopefully Cardiff.
Yeah, if not Mickey McGovern, he's done a very, very solid job so far. And do you know what? It's gonna be a very interesting encounter versus Reading, because Reading have two sides to it. I've seen Reading produce some brilliance this season, especially against Bristol City, where I even messaged you during the game. I was like, "What on earth is this? You've told me Reading are shit. They're not." But then, like you say, you see the Reading side that played against Birmingham City, where you were absolute dog shite.
Even against QPR, it took quite a moment of brilliance from 2 academy products to actually win the game. When Elias Chair had earlier in the game struck the post, it was a game that had 0-0 written all over it until a spark of magic. And quite frankly, that's what Reading are going to be relying on in this game. I feel it's going to be a spark of magic, a bit of luck to win us the game. When you've got the likes of Georgie Puskas, Yaku Mate, Lucas Zhao, John Swift, all out injured in terms of attacking options or attacking midfielding options, and then your starting right back and left back, Omar Richards being the left back, Andy Yeardon being the right back, are both out injured as well. You really are relying on something. Sam Baldock is going to be the only fit senior striker available for this fixture. I pray that Velkio Paunovic dips into the academy and looks at the likes of Nahum Melvin Lambert, the likes of Thierry Nevers, the talent that we have in the academy that are so good. I hope that we get to use them, and I really hope that we actually can see that going well. And yeah. I ultimately think that that's going to be the thing that's going to ride for Reading. But I said to you for this game, I'm expecting you to score a lot of goals. I'm expecting us to look fairly poor. And the ironic thing is, I'll be able to tell you all about it afterwards, and I'm sure you won't shut up.
Well, depending on the result, mate. But no, it's going to be a very interesting game, and I'm buzzing for it. As I am, football's football. I love it. But yeah, Josh, we'll head into 1 or 2 previews.
Let's have a look. Just because we've obviously already gone into looking at the weekend, the midweek game between us, my team Reading, and your team Norwich. Let's dip into 2 other games, 1 each. Take your pick.
Is this from the weekend and midweek? Should we just combine
This is from the weekend and midweek, but let's try and avoid our teams. Let's go get out there and look at what else is going on in and around the league.
Let's have a look. So midweek or weekend. Josh, really put me on the spot here.
I am putting you on the spot, but I'm going to have a big... I'm going to throw out one here, and I'm going to talk about a weekend game.
Okay.
I'm going to talk about Wycombe Wanderers against Queen's Park Rangers.
Okay.
2 teams down the bottom end of the table. QPR sat in 19th, Wycombe in 23rd. They're separated by 7 points, quite a big gap for this point of the season, especially considering there's not that many spaces between them. But Wycombe are beginning to slip off from that form that we said that they were kind of managing to grind out some draws. They've slipped away from that now. They've not won a game since they beat Birmingham City away from home at the start of November. By the time you're at this game, you're looking at a month and a half without a win. QPR, likewise, struggling for results. They've not won a game since they beat Rotherham just before the end of November. Both teams struggling for form. Both teams really not looking at their best, especially QPR. As I've said so many times, they're a much better team than what they put out there. And like I said when I touched on it when they played Reading, it was a moment of brilliance that won Reading the game. They probably should have come away with all 3 points in that one. I don't know if they're losing games because of bad luck. Maybe they're not taking their chances. but it's going to be a really interesting and probably quite scrappy game down the bottom of the league.
Yep, 100%. Right, I'll move on to my game. And I've gone through for the Friday night fixture of Preston versus Bristol City. And we've spoke so much about these two teams so far in the podcast just because of their pure inconsistency. So this game could go one or two ways. Bristol City can absolutely fly off of a 3-0 win, or Preston will fly off of a 3-0 win, or be 4-3 or 3-3 or 5-5.
0-0! It's going to be 0-0!
We know it's going to be 0-0 now because I've absolutely cursed it. But this game, just for me, it's going to be a very, very exciting account. Obviously, Preston, very inconsistent this season, but we've seen them produce some brilliance. And if they can produce more brilliance and make it a consistent level of brilliance, they can actually push for the playoffs. Bristol, if they can cut out the small blips, start giving that inconsistent form, they'll become settled in the playoffs. And again, it's going to be interesting to see one of these teams maybe try and start a bit of a run of form. Probably won't happen because they're both inconsistent. But
they'll start a run of form for one game.
For one game. But I think this game just screams goals for me. Personally, it's going to probably be 0-0 now. I've probably cursed it. But for me, I've gone with this game, and it's just going to be an interesting encounter for a Friday night. Definitely worth watching.
Yeah, there's like we said, there's a lot of games over the course of midweek and the weekend that are really kind of tantalising and do look like they could throw up all sorts of thrills and spills. And ultimately, there's some big clashes. There's some clashes down the top, down the bottom. Who knows what the table's going to look like when we next do one of these episodes, Doeke. I hope, for my sake, that you're the one in tears, not me. But that is going to wrap up this episode because we've done a lot of talking this week. We've spoken a lot about Preston. I'm all Prestoned out, quite frankly, and I'm very ready to go to bed.
As am I, Josh. Anyway, guys, if you have enjoyed this video, please drop a subscribe, drop us a like, leave a comment what you want us to talk about in the next video. Tickle the notification bell, check out our socials, and have a good day.
And ultimately, guys, don't forget to get involved with the socials. I'll post at the start of the game between Reading and Norwich on our socials. After that, I probably won't do anything because I'll probably be on the edge of my seat, bent over in my lap, crying. But like I say, don't be afraid to get involved. We'd love to hear from people, especially the people that are getting to go back to games. Let us know what you think and give us some ideas of what you want us to talk about, because we are more than happy to be taking on suggestions, because we ultimately want to be talking about what people want to listen to. So as Doeke said, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, tickle the notification bell, and we will see you next time.
See you later, guys.